Amanda handed me the pregnancy test at battalion family night, smiling, crying, the whole thing. 2 pink lines on a white plastic stick. Everyone around us was celebrating. The chaplain's wife hugged her. Other military spouses were already planning the baby shower. I was at Fort Benning when our baby was conceived, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up to the morning I should have seen it coming. Battalion formation. 0700 hours on a Tuesday in January. Cold enough that your breath came out in clouds, but not cold enough to cancel PT. 800 soldiers in perfect lines across the parade ground. The kind of precision you only get from the 82nd Airborne Division. I stood at attention as our guidon passed, red and white battalion colors snapping in the wind. Heavy fabric that made this specific sound, like a flag, but heavier, more permanent. Captain Derek Morrison carried it past, his uniform crisp, eyes forward. I'd given Derek his first command, taught him everything I knew about leadership. Promoted him to company commander 18 months ago. He was sleeping with my wife. I didn't know that yet. Didn't know a lot of things that morning. Battalion! Command Sergeant Major Tom Rodriguez's voice carried across the field. 48 years old, 26 years in service. The kind of NCO who could make a private cry with just a look. My right hand. Attention! 800 boots hit the frozen ground in unison. That sound, it never gets old. It's the sound of discipline, order, everything in its proper place. Amanda was watching from the family section. Officer spouses, enlisted spouses, kids in strollers. She smiled at me, waved. Her breath made little clouds in the cold air. God, she was good at lying. After formation, I went home to change before heading to battalion headquarters. Our quarters in base housing, standard officer family housing, nothing fancy. Amanda had breakfast waiting, eggs, toast, coffee, very domestic, very normal. You look tired, she said, pouring my coffee. She was wearing my old Army sweatshirt, the one from Ranger School. Sleeves pushed up to her elbows, hair pulled back in a ponytail. Long week, I said. The change of command ceremony is in 8 weeks, lot of prep. I know. She touched my hand. Her wedding ring caught the light. 20 years, that ring. James, I need to talk to you about something tonight. Something important. My stomach dropped. Just for a second. You know that feeling when someone says they need to talk, and your brain immediately goes to the worst possible place. But then she smiled, and I convinced myself it was probably about the ceremony. Maybe she wanted to invite her uncle, General Bradford. Maybe it was about Sarah needing money for textbooks at West Point. It wasn't about textbooks. That night, we had dinner with the Morrisons, Derek and his wife Melissa, base housing 3 doors down from us. Tyler and Jacob, their boys, 4 and 6, ran around the living room in Spider-Man pajamas while the adults drank wine. To the best battalion commander the 82nd has ever seen, Derek said, raising his glass. Colonel Hawkins, you've taught me everything. I didn't know yet that he was fucking my wife. Melissa looked tired. She always looked tired. 2 kids under 7 will do that. Elementary school teacher on base, pregnant with their 3rd. Amanda's supposed best friend. Amanda, Melissa said, refilling her wine glass. You're glowing. What's your secret? Amanda laughed, that musical laugh she does. Just happy, I guess. Life is good. After the Morrisons left, Amanda took my hand, led me to the bathroom, and there it was, sitting on the counter next to the sink. A clear blue digital pregnancy test, smooth white plastic, those 2 unmistakable pink lines in the window. The little screen read, pregnant 5-6 weeks. James, she whispered, we're pregnant. I should have been happy. I picked up the test. It was still warm from her hands. The plastic was smooth, that distinctive texture of medical-grade plastic. 5 to 6 weeks, I said. That's what it says. She was crying now. Happy tears, supposedly. I know we weren't trying, but James, isn't this wonderful? Sarah's grown. This is our second chance. I put the test back on the counter, carefully, like it might explode. Yeah, I heard myself say, wonderful. But something was already wrong. I couldn't put my finger on it yet, just this feeling in my gut. The same instinct that kept me alive in 2 combat deployments. Later that night, after Amanda fell asleep, I sat in the living room. The deployment shadow box hung on the wall, wooden frame, glass front, my medals from 22 years of service, 2 bronze stars, Purple Heart, the folded American flag from my first deployment, the 82nd Airborne Unit patch, everything arranged with military precision. I stared at that box for a long time. Amanda's voice from years ago, "You love that box more than you love me." Me, dismissing her. "Don't be dramatic." But maybe she'd been right. The next morning, I went to my office in battalion headquarters. Standard setup, desk, file cabinets, American flag in the corner, and the guidon. Derek's old guidon from when he was a lieutenant, standing in the corner. I'd let him keep it there as a reminder, a symbol of how far he'd come under my command. I was reviewing paperwork for an upcoming training exercise when I pulled out my calendar. Just routine planning. But my eyes caught on the dates. 5 to 6 weeks pregnant. The test said 5 to 6 weeks. I flipped back through my calendar. January meant conception in, I counted backward, mid to late December. Maybe early January at the latest. My hands stopped moving. December. I was at Fort Benning in December, airborne training course. I left December the 1st, came back January 8th. 5 weeks, more than a month. I opened my desk drawer, pulled out my old travel folder, found the orders. Official Army paperwork, that heavyweight government paper you can feel the quality of just by touching it. Department of Defense seal embossed at the top. You could trace it with your fingertip. The dates were typed in official military format. Stamped in red ink, those stamps leave a textured impression in the paper. You can feel them. Fort Benning, Georgia. February the 2nd through March 8th. Wait, no, that was wrong. That was the upcoming training. I needed the December orders. I dug deeper, found them. Fort Benning, Georgia, November 28th through January 8th, 6 weeks. I was gone for Thanksgiving, gone for Christmas, gone for New Year's. The pregnancy test said 5 to 6 weeks. Today was January 15th. Work backward 5 to 6 weeks. That's early to mid-December. I was in Georgia. 7,000 miles from Fort Bragg, 7,000 miles from my wife. The room got very quiet. You know that kind of quiet where you can hear your own heartbeat, where sound seems to come from underwater. I picked up the phone, put it back down, picked it up again, called Amanda. "Hey honey, quick question. When did you say you thought you conceived? The doctor can probably narrow it down better than the test." "Oh." Her voice was bright. Too bright. "I haven't called the doctor yet. I wanted to tell you first, but the test says 5 to 6 weeks, so probably early December?" "Right." My voice sounded normal, calm. Years of command training, keeping your voice level even when mortars are incoming. "Early December. Why?" Now she sounded worried. "Is something wrong?" No, just making sure I mark the due date on the calendar. I don't want to miss any appointments." "James," her voice went soft, "you're going to be an amazing father. Again." I hung up, stared at the training orders on my desk. The dates stamped in red ink. November 28th through January 8th. Official, documented, part of the permanent record. I've led men into combat. I've made decisions under fire that cost lives and saved lives. I've stood over dying soldiers and promised them they'd be okay, even when I knew they wouldn't. I never thought the hardest battle would be at home, and I had no idea who the enemy was. If you've ever known something was wrong but couldn't prove it yet, that gut feeling that won't go away, just type "felt it" in the comments. Sometimes our instincts know before our minds catch up. You're not alone in trusting that feeling. The next 3 days, I couldn't stop thinking about it. The timeline, the math that didn't work. I told myself maybe I was wrong, maybe the test was wrong, maybe conception happened right before I left or right after I got back, and the test was just imprecise. But I'd been to enough military briefings to know when intelligence didn't add up. On Thursday, I was going through Amanda's things. Not snooping, not yet, just looking. For what? I didn't know. In her desk drawer, I found a brochure. Trifold, glossy paper. Blue and gold, military colors, Fort Bragg, Family Programs logo on the front. Deployment Support Retreat for Military Spouses in bold letters across the top. I remembered this. Amanda had gone on this retreat back in November while I was at Benning. 3 days in the Smoky Mountains. She'd come back refreshed, she said, happy. Said it was exactly what she needed. The brochure listed the schedule, workshops on resilience, group therapy sessions, yoga classes, mountain hikes. I picked up the phone, called Family Programs. Fort Bragg Family Programs, this is Sandra. Sandra, this is Colonel Hawkins. I have a question about a retreat you ran back in November. The Deployment Support Retreat? Sir? She sounded confused. We didn't run any retreats in November. Our last retreat was in September, and that was for new spouses. The next one isn't until March. The room tilted slightly. Are you sure? I kept my voice even. I have the brochure right here. November 15th through 17th. Smoky Mountains. Sir, I'm looking at our calendar. We didn't host anything those dates. If you have a brochure, someone printed it, but it wasn't us. I looked at the brochure again, really looked. The logo was slightly off. The eagle's wings were wrong. The paper was glossy, but it wasn't the matte cardstock Family Programs usually used. Thank you, Sandra. I hung up. 3 days in November, while I was at Fort Benning. Amanda had gone somewhere, with someone. She'd printed a fake brochure to cover it. The paper in my hands had that specific smell, fresh from a commercial printer. Not the military laser printer smell from our offices. This was from somewhere like FedEx office. I could even see the slight gloss variation where someone had used the wrong paper setting. My phone buzzed. CSM Rodriguez. Sir, can you come to my office? Something we need to discuss. Private. Command Sergeant Major Rodriguez's office was down the hall. Smaller than mine, but he'd been here longer. Photos on the wall, deployments, promotions, his family. His wife had been a military spouse for 26 years. She knew the life. He closed the door behind me, locked it. That's when I knew it was bad. You don't lock the door for routine business. Sir. He didn't sit. Neither did I. I need to tell you something, and I don't know how to say it without just saying it. He pulled something from his desk drawer, a brass coin, heavy about 2 inches across. The 82nd Airborne Division emblem on one side, our battalion crest on the other. The edges were worn smooth from being carried in someone's pocket for years. Unit coins. We give them out for exceptional service. This one was mine. I'd given it to Rodriguez 3 years ago after a training exercise where he'd saved 2 soldiers from a vehicle rollover. He held it up. You gave me this because you said I had your back, no matter what. I remember. Then you need to know. He took a breath. There's talk in the unit, sir, about Captain Morrison and your wife. The floor didn't drop out from under me. I'd already suspected, but hearing it confirmed, hearing someone else say it out loud, that was different. What kind of talk? My voice was steady, command voice. The kind that starts with late-night text messages during field exercises. The kind that includes a company commander who takes personal calls during mission briefs. The kind where... He stopped. Sir, I don't have proof, just smoke. But where there's smoke, who else knows? Just me, so far. But sir, if I'm noticing, others will too. And once it hits the enlisted ranks... He didn't have to finish. Military gossip spreads faster than wildfire. I looked at the coin in his hand. The brass caught the light. You could smell the metal, that distinctive brass smell. He'd carried it in his pocket every day for 3 years, warm from his body heat. Thank you for telling me, Tom. What are you going to do? I don't know yet. That night, I confronted Amanda, waited until after dinner, sat down at the kitchen table, our kitchen table, the one we bought when we first moved to Fort Bragg. 20 years of family meals at that table. Her military-dependent ID card was sitting on the counter. I picked it up. Laminated plastic with her photo. Dependent, indefinite, stamped across the top. The magnetic strip on the back. When I set it on the table, it made that distinctive click of plastic on wood. We need to talk, I said. She knew. I could see it in her face. The way her shoulders tensed, the way she looked at the exit. James, the baby isn't mine. Silence, long enough to count heartbeats. 10, 20, 30. Yes, it is. But her voice cracked. I pulled out the Fort Benning orders, set them on the table next to her ID card. These are official, dated, stamped. I was in Georgia from November 28th through January 8th. 6 weeks. The pregnancy test says 5 to 6 weeks. Early December conception. She was crying now. Not pretty crying. The kind where your face gets red and your nose runs. It was a mistake. It's over. Please, James, for the battalion, for your career, just let it go. I looked at her ID card on the table. That little piece of plastic, everything she had, healthcare, commissary privileges, base housing, her entire identity as Colonel Hawkins's wife existed because of that card, because of my rank, my service. Who? I asked. She shook her head. Amanda. Who? It doesn't matter. It matters to me. More silence. Then barely a whisper. You'll destroy everything. The battalion, your reputation, Sarah's career at West Point, everything. She didn't deny it. She didn't name him, but she didn't have to. I already knew. The next morning, I called Derek into my office. 6 a.m. before the rest of the battalion arrived. Just him and me. He knocked twice. Military precision. Enter. Derek Morrison walked in wearing his PT uniform. Athletic build, clean cut, the kind of officer who looks good in recruiting posters. 38 years old. I'd mentored him since he was a lieutenant, given him responsibilities, trusted him with my soldiers, trusted him. The Guidon stood in the corner behind my desk. He'd carried that Guidon in formation hundreds of times. I watched his eyes flick to it, then away. Sir, you wanted to see me? I gestured to the chair across from my desk. He sat. I stayed standing. Amanda's pregnant, I said, watched his face. Congratulations, sir. Smooth, easy, not even a flicker. The baby was conceived in early December. Now, there, just a flash. The smallest tightening around his eyes. I was at Fort Benning in December, I continued, November 28th through January 8th. 6 weeks of training, the whole time you were here, running the company. Yes, sir. His voice was steady, but his left hand gripped the armrest, knuckles going white. Amanda went on a retreat in November, 3 days, while I was gone. Do you remember that retreat, Captain? Sir, He shifted in his seat. I don't keep track of spouse programs. She came back different, happier, more settled. I came around the desk, stood in front of him. Did you help her feel settled, Derek? His jaw tightened. Sir, with all due respect, I don't know what you're implying. I'm not implying anything. I'm asking directly. Are you sleeping with my wife? Silence, the kind that stretches like razor wire. No, sir. He stood up, met my eyes. Colonel Hawkins, I have nothing but respect for you and your family. If your wife is pregnant, that's wonderful news. If you have concerns about the timeline, maybe you should talk to her doctor. But this, he gestured between us, this is inappropriate. Sit down. Sir, I said sit down, Captain. That's an order. He sat. I leaned against my desk, crossed my arms. You're lying to me. Sir, you're lying to my face. And the worst part is, you think I'm stupid enough to believe you. His face flushed. Colonel, I don't know what your wife told you, but she didn't tell me anything. She won't name you, but I know. CSM knows. It's only a matter of time before the whole battalion knows. I pushed off the desk. When that happens, when this becomes official, you understand what's at stake. Article 134, conduct unbecoming an officer, adultery with a superior officer's spouse, court-martial. Now he was pale. Sir, you're making a mistake. Am I? Then prove it. Show me your phone. My personal phone. Not your personal phone. Your government phone. The one you use for official business. Show it to me. He stood up slowly. Sir, with respect, I think your wife is having some kind of breakdown. Postpartum depression before the baby's even born. You should get her help, get counseling. But accusing one of your company commanders based on rumors? He shook his head. That's not the leader I know. He actually said that to my face. Dismissed, Captain. He left. The door closed behind him with a soft click. I stood there in the empty office, the guidon in the corner, the shadow box on the wall, everything in its place, everything except the truth. 20 minutes later, CSM Rodriguez knocked on my door. He looked like he hadn't slept. Sir, he came in, closed the door, locked it again. I need to show you something. He pulled out an evidence bag, clear plastic. Inside was a smartphone, gray case with a unit identification sticker on the back. Standard military-issue iPhone. Derek left his government phone in the company headquarters yesterday. Forgot it when he went to PT. Rodriguez's voice was tight, controlled. Sir, I wasn't snooping, but it was unlocked, and I saw a text message notification from someone named A. He set the bag on my desk. The plastic crinkled. I need your permission to look, sir, officially. Because what I saw, what I think is on this phone, that's evidence of UCMJ violations. I stared at the phone. Through the clear plastic, I could see the screen was dark. Open it, I said. Rodriguez pulled the phone out of the bag, powered it on. That cheerful startup chime, completely wrong for what we were about to see. The screen was slightly warm, recently used. Derek's fingerprint smudges on the glass. Rodriguez unlocked it. Derek hadn't changed the default passcode. Stupid. Then again, he probably never thought anyone would look. The text app opened. There, at the top of the messages list, Amanda. Not Mrs. Hawkins, not Colonel's wife, just Amanda. Rodriguez tapped it. Messages filled the screen, hundreds of them. His fingers scrolled. That soft friction sound, skin on glass. Each swipe revealing more messages, more evidence. I can't wait to see you. When is he leaving for Benning? 3 more days until he's gone. I miss you already. Last night was perfect. The timestamps, all during duty hours. Messages sent during the day, during training exercises, during times when Derek was supposed to be commanding his company. Photos. I won't describe them. You can imagine. Rodriguez kept scrolling. His breathing got heavier. Sir, his voice was rough. There are 347 text messages between them, 62 images, all sent during the past 18 months, all on government property. He looked up at me. This goes beyond adultery, sir. This is Article 92, dereliction of duty, misuse of government resources. I couldn't speak, couldn't move. The messages go back 18 months, Rodriguez continued. This wasn't just the retreat. Sir, he stopped scrolling, looked at me. He was texting her during your deployment last year. Last year, when I was in Afghanistan, leading my battalion in combat, worrying about my soldiers, calling Amanda every week on satellite phone to tell her I loved her, and she was texting Derek. How many? My voice didn't sound like mine. At 347 messages. I can document every single one if you need me to. Do it. My hands were shaking. I gripped the edge of the desk. Print them, screenshot them, everything, chain of custody, by the book. Yes, sir. And Tom? I looked at him. Thank you. He nodded. Set the phone down carefully. The brass unit coin was still on his desk. He picked it up, held it. You'd do the same for me, sir. After he left, I sat alone in my office. The phone sitting on the desk in its evidence bag like a bomb that had already detonated. 347 messages. 18 months while I was deployed. The phone on my desk rang. My personal cell. Unknown Virginia number. I answered. Hawkins. Colonel Hawkins. A young man's voice. Professional. This is Captain Anderson. I'm Cadet Hawkins' tactical officer at West Point. My stomach dropped. Sir, I'm calling because there have been some questions raised among the cadets about your family situation. Social media chatter. Nothing official yet, but I wanted to give you a heads up. What kind of questions? I kept my voice level. Regarding a potential divorce and allegations about, sir, I don't want to be indelicate, but there are questions about character fitness. Cadet Hawkins is coming up on her security clearance review for summer training. If there are any issues with her immediate family that might affect her clearance status, he didn't finish. He didn't have to. Sarah, my daughter, this was affecting Sarah. Captain Anderson, my personal life is exactly that. Personal. My daughter has done nothing wrong. She shouldn't be penalized for... I stopped, took a breath. What do you need from me? Honestly, sir, I need to know if there's anything in your family situation that would prevent Cadet Hawkins from maintaining her security clearance. Any legal issues, any investigations, anything that might become a matter of official records. I looked at the government phone on my desk. The evidence bag. 347 messages that would become part of an official investigation if I reported them. I'll get back to you, Captain. Sir, I need to know... I said I'll get back to you. I hung up. My hands were shaking, actually shaking. I put them flat on the desk to steady them. Sarah, 20 years old, West Point plebe, top of her class, dreaming of the airborne just like her dad. Her acceptance letter was framed on my desk, cream-colored envelope, United States Military Academy seal embossed on the front. You could trace the eagle with your fingertip. I'd kept that letter here for 2 years, my proudest moment. And now this was affecting her. My marriage, Amanda's affair, Derek's betrayal. All of it was reaching into Sarah's life, threatening her career before it even started. My personal cell rang again, different number. I knew this one. General Bradford's office, the general would like to see you. Today, 1400 hours. Of course, General Bradford wanted to see me. Amanda's uncle, the man who'd mentored me for 15 years, the man who'd promoted me to battalion commander, the man who'd given the speech at our wedding about military families supporting military families. I'll be there, I said. 2 hours later, I was sitting in division headquarters, bigger building, more flags, more brass. General William Bradford's office was on the 3rd floor. Corner office, view of the entire post. His aide showed me in. The general was standing by the window, hands behind his back. 68 years old, but he still stood like a soldier, still had that presence. James. He didn't turn around. Close the door. I did. Amanda called me. Now he turned. His face was hard. She's very upset. Says you're accusing her of having an affair. Says you're threatening to destroy your career over paranoid delusions about the timeline of her pregnancy. Sir, she also says you've been interrogating your subordinate officers, creating a hostile command climate. She's worried about your mental state. I stood at attention, didn't speak. James. His voice softened slightly. I've known Amanda since she was a child. She's my niece. But I've also known you for 15 years. You're one of the finest officers I've ever served with, so I need you to tell me right now, do I need to prepare for a scandal? There it was, the question, the one that would determine everything. Sir, I have evidence, documented evidence. Text messages between my wife and Captain Derek Morrison, 347 messages over 18 months, all sent on government phones, all during duty hours. The general's jaw tightened. You're certain? CSM Rodriguez recovered Captain Morrison's government phone. The messages are clear. Timestamps, photos, explicit content. Jesus Christ. He sat down heavily in his chair, looked out the window. Amanda, Jesus. Sir, I need to know. What you need to know, he interrupted, is that if you pursue this officially, it becomes a matter of record. Article 32 hearing, investigation. The whole division will know. Amanda loses her dependent status. He looked at me. James, your career survives this, but barely. The gossip, the judgment. You know how the Army works, and Sarah... I know about Sarah. West Point called. Then you understand what's at stake. Your daughter's military career, before it even starts. If you were James, would you protect your mentor and cover up the affair to save everyone's career? Type protect. Or report the truth through military channels and let the consequences fall where they may. Type truth. What would you do? There's no easy answer here. Protect means saving Sarah's career, the general's reputation, the battalion's morale. Truth means all of that potentially destroyed, but your honor stays intact. What's your call? I stood there in General Bradford's office, looking at a man I respected more than almost anyone, a man who was asking me to choose between family and integrity. Sir, I said quietly, I need to think about this. You do that, but James, think carefully. Once you make this official, there's no going back. I left his office, drove home in a daze. Base housing had never felt so small, so suffocating. Amanda wasn't home. Good. I couldn't face her yet. My phone buzzed. Text message from Melissa Morrison. James, I need to talk to you. Please, it's important. I called her. She answered on the first ring. James. Her voice was shaking. Can you come over now, please? Melissa, please, I found something. Hotel receipts from November, and She was crying. I need you to tell me I'm wrong. Please tell me I'm wrong. I drove to their quarters, knocked on the door. It was 2 a.m. I hadn't even realized how late it had gotten. Melissa opened the door, mascara running down her face. She was wearing an old sweatshirt, pajama pants. Behind her, I could see Tyler and Jacob asleep on the couch, 4 and 6 years old, wrapped in blankets, Spider-Man pajamas. They couldn't sleep, Melissa whispered. They keep asking where Daddy is. I told them he's working late, but... She broke down. James, I know about Amanda. I found the receipts. The Chamberlain Lodge in Aspen, November 15th through 17th. Couples package, charged to Derek's credit card. Chamberlain Lodge, the retreat brochure, the fake family programs trip. Melissa, and his phone. I looked at his phone. I saw the messages. All of them. She was sobbing now, full body, shaking. How could he? How could she? I'm pregnant, James. 6 months pregnant with our third child, and he... Tyler stirred on the couch, sat up, rubbed his eyes. He looked at me with Derek's eyes, 4 years old, clutching his favorite blanket. Colonel Hawkins? His little voice, sleepy. Is my daddy coming home? I looked at that little boy, that innocent face, asking a question I couldn't answer. I don't know, buddy. My voice cracked. I don't know. Tyler started crying. Not loud, just these quiet tears running down his face. Jacob woke up too, 6 years old, trying not to cry. Trying to be strong like we teach military kids to be strong when daddy deploys. But this wasn't deployment. This was abandonment. Melissa sank onto the couch between her boys, held them both, all 3 of them, crying, and I stood there feeling completely useless. Melissa, I knelt down in front of her. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. What are you going to do? She asked. James, what are you going to do? Because if you report this, if it becomes official, everyone will know. Everyone. And my boys will grow up knowing their father... She couldn't finish. I don't know yet, I said honestly, but I promise you, whatever I decide, I'll make sure you and your boys are taken care of. After I left, I drove around base for an hour, just driving, thinking. Eventually, I ended up at battalion headquarters, parked in the empty lot, went inside, 3 a.m. The building was dark except for the emergency lights. My footsteps echoed in the empty hallways. I went to my office, closed the door, turned on the desk lamp. The guidon stood in the corner, red and white in the dim light. I walked over to it, touched the pole where Derek's hands had gripped it hundreds of times, where he'd carried our colors with pride, or what I thought was pride. On my desk, Sarah's West Point acceptance letter in its frame, the cream envelope with the embossed seal. Congratulations, Cadet Hawkins. You have been selected for admission to the United States Military Academy. Next to it, the evidence bag with Derek's phone. Next to that, my personal copy of the UCMJ manual, open to Article 134, adultery. On the wall, the deployment shadow box, 22 years of service, all my medals, the folded flag, everything I'd sacrificed for the Army. I sat down at my desk, 3 a.m., empty headquarters, just me and the ghosts. I picked up Sarah's letter, read it for the 100th time, my daughter, following in my footsteps, third-generation military. My father had been a colonel, my grandfather had been a general, and now Sarah, carrying on the legacy. If I reported Derek and Amanda officially, Sarah would be questioned. Her security clearance review would include questions about her father's divorce, about the scandal, about whether she could be trusted with classified information when her family was falling apart. West Point has an honor code. A cadet will not lie, cheat, steal, or tolerate those who do. If I stayed silent, what was I tolerating? I looked at the shadow box on the wall. All those medals, 2 Bronze Stars for valor, Purple Heart for wounds received in combat. I'd earned those leading soldiers, making hard decisions, doing the right thing even when it cost me. And now, I've led men into combat. I've held dying soldiers in my arms and promised them their families would be taken care of. I've made decisions that cost lives and save lives. But I never thought the hardest battle would be at home. I looked at the guidon, at Sarah's letter, at the evidence bag, at the UCMJ manual. Every choice destroyed something I loved. Report Derek, and Sarah's career might end before it started. Stay silent, and I become complicit in the betrayal. Protect the battalion's reputation, and I teach my soldiers that integrity is optional. The Army taught me mission first, people always. Accomplish the mission, but take care of your people while doing it. I just never thought my wife would be the mission. I picked up my phone. JAG's number was on speed dial. LTC Patricia Hayes, Brigade Legal Officer, former prosecutor. If I called her, if I made this official, everything would change. Everything. My hand was shaking, actually shaking. Colonel James Hawkins, decorated combat veteran, sitting alone in an office at 3 a.m. with his hand shaking. I thought about Tyler's face. Is my daddy coming home? I thought about Sarah at West Point, her dreams, her honor. I thought about the 800 soldiers in my battalion, watching to see if their commander would uphold the standards he preached. I thought about Amanda, 20 years of marriage, 20 years of believing we were building something together. I thought about Derek, the young lieutenant I'd mentored, the officer I'd trusted, carrying our guidon. The phone was in my hand. One call. That's all it would take. One call, and I could let military justice handle it, let the system work, let the investigation unfold, or I could hang up, delete the evidence, transfer Derek to another unit, get a quiet divorce, protect Sarah, protect the general, protect everyone except my own integrity. My finger hovered over the dial button. The deployment shadow box caught the light. Those medals. My grandfather's voice in my memory. Honor isn't something you wear on your uniform, James. It's what you do when the uniform comes off. I pressed dial. It rang twice before LTC Hayes answered, voice groggy. Hayes. Patricia, it's Colonel Hawkins. I need to file charges against one of my officers. Article 134, conduct unbecoming. I have evidence. Silence on the other end. Then, Sir, it's 3 a.m. This can't wait until morning? No, I said, it can't. Because if I waited until morning, I might change my mind, and I couldn't let myself do that. I'll be at your office at 0600, she said. Bring everything. I hung up, sat there in the dark office, the guidon in the corner, Sarah's letter on the desk, the phone in the evidence bag. I'd made the call. There was no going back now. The hardest battle of my life. And I was just getting started. LTC Patricia Hayes' office at 0600. She was already there when I arrived, coffee in hand, reading glasses on. Colonel Hawkins. She gestured to a chair, all business. Show me what you have. I laid it out. The Fort Benning training orders proving the timeline, the fake retreat brochure, the government phone with 347 messages, screenshots CSM Rodriguez had taken, time-stamped, documented, chain of custody preserved. Patricia read through everything. Her expression never changed. Prosecutor's face. She'd spent 10 years with the JAG Corps before this assignment, knew how to stay objective. When she finished, she removed her glasses, looked at me. This is solid. Government phone usage alone is enough for Article 92, misuse of government property. Add in the adultery, the conduct unbecoming an officer, the fraternization with a superior's family member. She tapped the papers. Colonel, you understand what happens next? Article 32 hearing. Yes, preliminary hearing. We'll need to interview witnesses, you, your wife, CSM Rodriguez, potentially others. Captain Morrison will be informed of the charges. He'll have the option of accepting non-judicial punishment or demanding a court-martial. And my daughter? I asked. At West Point? Patricia's expression softened slightly. She'll be questioned as part of her security clearance review. They'll ask about the family situation, about the investigation. She'll have to answer honestly, West Point honor code and all. But, sir... She leaned forward. Your daughter didn't do anything wrong. Neither did you. The investigation is about Captain Morrison's conduct, not yours, not hers. You know how the gossip will work. I do. But, Colonel, you understand that once this goes on the official record, your daughter will be asked about this during every clearance review for her entire career. Not because she did something wrong, because it's part of her background, part of her family history. I looked at the charge sheet she was preparing. DA Form 458, military legal document, white paper with official Army letterhead, multiple pages. The sound of her typing filled the small office, keys clicking, printer humming to life. Then that authoritative sound of pages being stamped, official red ink, the kind of stamp that becomes permanent record. File it, I said. Sir, I need to ask one more time. Are you certain? Because once I file this... I'm certain. She nodded, signed the bottom of the charge sheet. The pen made a scratching sound on the heavy paper. Then she stamped it, that final thump of official military justice. It's done, she said. I'll notify Captain Morrison within the hour. The Article 32 hearing will be scheduled within 2 weeks. Brigade Commander will be informed. General Bradford will be informed. I stood. Thank you, Patricia. Sir? She stopped me at the door. For what it's worth, you're doing the right thing. It doesn't feel like it now, but you are. The next 10 days were hell. Derek was placed on administrative leave pending the hearing. Melissa filed for divorce. Amanda moved out of our quarters into temporary housing off base. The battalion knew something was happening, but official details hadn't been released yet. Sarah called me 3 times. Each time I could hear the fear in her voice. Dad, the TAC officer keeps asking me about our family situation. I don't know what to tell him. Tell him the truth, Sarah. Always the truth. But what is the truth? I took a breath. Your mother and I are getting divorced. There's an official investigation. That's all you need to say. You didn't do anything wrong. This isn't about you. It feels like it's about me. Her voice was small, 20 years old, but sounding like she was 10 again. Dad, everyone here is asking questions. The other cadets. People are talking. Let them talk. That's easy for you to say. You're not the one. She stopped. I'm sorry. That's not fair. It's okay, Sarah Bear. Don't call me that. I'm not a kid anymore. I know, but you'll always be my daughter, and I'm always proud of you, no matter what happens. Silence on the line, then, quietly, Are you okay, Dad? Was I okay? I was sleeping 3 hours a night, living in a hotel on base. My marriage of 20 years was ending. My career would survive, but barely. My reputation would be tainted by association. And my daughter, my brilliant, dedicated daughter, was being questioned about her family's integrity. I'm fine, I lied. Focus on your studies. I'll handle this. The Article 32 hearing was held in a conference room at brigade headquarters. Present, the investigating officer Patricia Hayes as prosecutor, Derek with his military defense counsel, CSM Rodriguez, Amanda, and me. They brought in the evidence, the government phone, the printed messages, the hotel receipts, the timeline documentation. Derek sat stone-faced through the whole thing. His lawyer tried to argue that the messages were taken out of context and that private communications between consenting adults weren't grounds for military action. Patricia destroyed that argument in 3 minutes. These weren't private communications. They were sent on government property during duty hours using military equipment. Captain Morrison violated Article 92 by misusing government resources. He violated Article 133 through conduct unbecoming an officer. And he violated Article 134 through adultery with his commanding officer's spouse while serving in that commanding officer's chain of command. The evidence is overwhelming. The investigating officer reviewed everything, interviewed CSM Rodriguez, who testified about recovering the phone, interviewed me about the timeline, the training orders, the discovery process. They didn't interview Amanda. She invoked her right not to testify. Sat there silent, looking at the floor the entire time. At the end, the investigating officer made his recommendation: proceed with charges. Sufficient evidence for court-martial. Derek's lawyer asked for a recess. Came back an hour later with an offer. Derek would accept non-judicial punishment. Article 15, no court-martial. Patricia looked at me. Sir, it's your call. We can proceed to court-martial, make this fully public. Or we can accept the Article 15. He'll still face consequences. Reduction in rank, forfeiture of pay, reprimand on his permanent record, mandatory transfer. But it stays at the battalion level. I thought about Melissa, about Tyler and Jacob, about those 2 little boys who'd already lost their father. Did they need the whole world to know every detail? Article 15, I said, but I want maximum punishment allowable. Understood. The Article 15 hearing was held a week later, smaller proceeding. The battalion commander, me, acting as the authority. But I'd recused myself due to conflict of interest, so it fell to the brigade commander, Colonel Marcus Steele. Derek stood at attention in his dress uniform, full military bearing, like he was on parade. Colonel Steele read the charges. Captain Derek Morrison, you are charged with violations of Article 92, Article 133, and Article 134 of the Uniform Code of Military Justice. How do you plead? Guilty, sir. Derek's voice was steady, but he wouldn't look at me, wouldn't look at anyone. The evidence has been reviewed. The investigating officer's report has been examined. Captain Morrison, your conduct has brought dishonor to this unit, to the officer corps, and to the Army. You have betrayed the trust of your commanding officer, your fellow soldiers, and your family. Steele's voice was like iron. I hereby reduce you in rank from captain to first lieutenant. You will forfeit half your pay for 3 months. You will receive a formal reprimand to be placed in your permanent record, and you will be transferred to Fort Hood, Texas, effective immediately. You are dismissed from this command." They did it right there. An enlisted soldier stepped forward with new rank insignia, removed Derek's captain bars, those silver double bars he'd earned that I'd pinned on him myself 2 years ago, replaced them with single gold bars, first lieutenant, 20 years of building a career, gone in 20 seconds. Derek's jaw was clenched so tight I could see the muscle jumping, but he didn't say a word, didn't protest, didn't apologize. He saluted Colonel Steele, turned on his heel, walked out. I never saw him again. That afternoon I called a special battalion formation. All 800 soldiers, company commanders, platoon leaders, enlisted ranks, everyone. They assembled on the parade ground, perfect lines, wondering why their battalion commander had called an emergency formation. I stood at the podium, CSM Rodriguez beside me. The battalion Guidon to my left, held now by the new company commander, a captain who'd transferred in from the 101st, not Derek. The wind was cold. March in North Carolina. 8 weeks since that morning in January when I'd found out my wife was pregnant with another man's child. "Battalion," I called, my voice carried across the field. At ease. 800 soldiers shifted to parade rest, waiting. I'm not going to waste your time with a long speech. You've probably heard rumors. Some of them are true, some aren't. Here's what you need to know. Captain Derek Morrison has been removed from this battalion. He accepted non-judicial punishment for violations of the Uniform Code of Military Justice. He has been reduced in rank and transferred to another post. I could see the reactions rippling through the formation. Whispers, shocked faces. They'd respected Derek, looked up to him. I'm telling you this because you deserve the truth. You deserve to know that the standards we preach, integrity, honor, selfless service, those aren't just words. They're requirements. They apply to every soldier in this battalion, from the newest private to the battalion commander, no exceptions. I paused. Let that sink in. Some of you are going to hear gossip. You're going to hear details I'm not sharing today. That's fine. Gossip happens. But I want you to understand something. When we fail to uphold the standards, there are consequences. When we violate trust, we lose the privilege of leadership. That's how it has to work. Because if we tolerate misconduct in our ranks, we become complicit in it. The formation was absolutely silent. 800 soldiers, not a sound. I'm not standing here as your battalion commander because I'm perfect. I'm standing here because I'm willing to hold myself and everyone else accountable to the standards we've sworn to uphold. That's what I expect from each of you. That's what the Army demands from all of us. I looked out at those faces. Young soldiers. Some of them barely out of high school, looking to their leadership for an example. "Dismissed," CSM Rodriguez called them to attention. "Battalion, attention!" 800 boots hit the ground in unison. As they marched off, Rodriguez turned to me, pulled out that brass unit coin, the one I'd given him years ago, held it up so the sun caught it. "Sir," he said quietly, "this coin means even more now than it did when you gave it to me, because now I know you meant every word." He saluted. I returned it. And for the first time in 8 weeks, I felt like I could breathe. The divorce proceedings were quick. Amanda didn't contest anything, signed the papers, agreed to the terms. She'd already moved into an apartment in Fayetteville, lost her dependent ID card, had to turn it in at the Deer's office. They cut it right there with scissors, that distinctive snip sound, everything she'd had as a military spouse, gone. The baby was born in July, a boy. Amanda decided on adoption. I helped her find a family, a major and his wife from the 101st Airborne, stationed at Fort Campbell. They'd been trying to have children for 8 years. Couldn't. The adoption was closed, but I made sure the military dependent benefits were properly transferred, made sure the child would be taken care of. I never saw the baby. Amanda didn't want me there. And honestly, I'm not sure I could have handled it, but I knew he'd be loved. That was enough. Sarah came home for the summer. We didn't talk much about what had happened. She was still processing, still dealing with the questions at West Point, the gossip, the judgment from cadets who thought they knew the whole story. One afternoon, we were sitting on the porch of my new apartment, just the two of us, coffee in the morning sun. "Dad," she said finally, "I need to tell you something." I waited. I thought about leaving West Point after everything happened, thought about just giving up, because it felt like everyone was judging me for what Mom did, for what you did. My chest tightened. "Sarah," "Let me finish." She set down her coffee. "I thought about leaving, but then I realized something. You didn't have to report Derek. You could have stayed quiet, transferred him away, protected me from all of this." She looked at me. "But you didn't. You chose integrity, even though it hurt me, even though it made my life harder, and that," her voice cracked, "that taught me more about honor than any class at West Point ever could." I couldn't speak. "So I'm staying," she continued. "I'm staying because you showed me what it means to do the right thing, even when it costs everything. And Dad?" She smiled, tears in her eyes. "I'm proud to be your daughter. I'm proud to have your name, no matter what anyone says." I pulled her into a hug. My daughter, my Sarah, stronger than I'd ever given her credit for. "You're going to do it better than I did," I told her. "You'll do it with truth from the start." March 28th. Change of command ceremony, the day I'd been dreading and anticipating in equal measure. The division assembled on the parade ground, 5,000 soldiers in formation, division band playing, color guard presenting the flags, General Bradford on the reviewing stand, retired officers in the audience, military families in the bleachers, and Sarah, in her dress, gray West Point cadet uniform, sitting in the front row, there to watch her father pass the Gauidan. The ceremony began. The formal speeches, the official transfer of authority, everything done with military precision. Perfect. When it was my turn to speak, I stepped to the podium, looked out at 5,000 faces. I've had the honor of commanding this battalion for 3 years. In that time, we've deployed twice, trained hundreds of soldiers, maintained the standards that make the 82nd Airborne Division the finest fighting force in the world. I paused, chose my words carefully. But the last few months have taught me something I didn't fully understand before. Leadership isn't about being perfect. It's about being accountable. It's about holding yourself to the same standards you demand from your soldiers. It's about doing what's right even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. I could see General Bradford in the reviewing stand, his face unreadable. "This Gauidan," I gestured to the battalion colors. "It represents trust, honor, tradition. Every commander who's held it has carried the weight of those responsibilities. Some have carried it with distinction, others, I didn't finish, didn't need to. Today, I'm passing this Gauidan to a man I trust completely, a leader who understands that integrity isn't negotiable, that the standards matter, that honor isn't something you wear on your uniform, it's what you do when the uniform comes off." I turned to the new battalion commander, a lieutenant colonel from the 173rd Airborne, good officer. Clean record, respected by his soldiers. I gripped the Gauidan pole, felt the smooth wood where so many hands had held it before mine, where Derek had held it, where I'd held it. The fabric was heavy in my hands, that red and white silk that made a distinctive sound in the wind. "I pass this Gauidan to you," I said formally. "Take care of our soldiers, uphold our standards, lead with integrity." He gripped the pole. We held it together for a moment. Then I let go. The Gauidan passed. The battalion had a new commander, and I was done. The ceremony concluded with traditional military honors. The band played, soldiers marched, everything perfect. At the reception afterward, General Bradford approached me. We hadn't spoken much since that day in his office. "James," he extended his hand. "That was a good speech." I shook his hand. "Thank you, sir. I want you to know—" He paused, struggled with the words. "Amanda is my niece. I love her. But you did the right thing, not the easy thing. The right thing. And this division is better for it." "Sir, let me finish. I promoted you because I believed in your integrity. These last few months proved I was right. You had every reason to take the easy path. Protect your career, protect your daughter, but you didn't." He gripped my shoulder. "That's leadership, James. That's what we need in this army." After the reception, I found Sarah. She was standing alone, looking at the empty parade ground. The guidon was gone. The soldiers were dismissed. Everything was quiet. "Hey, kiddo." She turned, still in her cadet uniform, gray wool, brass buttons, the West Point crest on her chest. She'd chosen to wear it today. A statement. "That was a good speech, Dad." "Thanks. Are you okay?" Honest answer? I didn't know. I'd just given up command of the battalion I'd led for 3 years. Ended the career I'd spent 22 years building. Lost my marriage. Lost my home. Everything was different now, but I'd kept my integrity. I'd shown my daughter what it meant to do the right thing. I'd held the standards even when it cost me everything. "I'm okay," I said. And maybe I was, or maybe I would be. "Come here." I went to my car, opened the trunk. Inside was the deployment shadow box, the one that had hung on my wall for 8 years. Wood frame, glass front, all my medals, the folded flag, 22 years of service in a box. I handed it to her. "I want you to have this." "Dad, this is yours, your legacy." "No." I put it in her hands. "You're my legacy. The medals are just metal. You're what matters." She started crying, held the shadow box carefully, like it might break. "You're going to earn your own medals," I told her. "You're going to build your own legacy, and you'll do it with honor from the beginning. Not because it's easy, because it's right." She hugged me, the shadow box between us, and for the first time in months I felt something like peace. 6 months later, September, early fall, I drove to West Point, 8 hours from Fayetteville to New York. I'd retired from the Army in May, full honors, full pension. No ceremony, I didn't want one. I was wearing civilian clothes, jeans, flannel shirt, no uniform for the first time in 22 years. It felt strange, wrong, like wearing someone else's skin, but also liberating. I found parking near the parade grounds, walked across campus, cadets everywhere in their gray uniforms, hurrying to class, to formation, to whatever came next. I found the bleachers overlooking the parade ground, sat down, just another parent visiting their cadet kid. The formation began, companies marching out, that distinctive sound of synchronized boots on pavement. The Army sound, the sound I'd lived with for 2 decades, and there, 4th Company, 3rd Platoon, Sarah, marching in formation, perfect posture, eyes forward. Her company guidon snapping in the wind. She looked strong, confident, sure of herself in a way she hadn't been 6 months ago. After formation, she found me in the bleachers, smiled when she saw me, started to salute out of habit, then stopped, laughed. "You look weird in civilian clothes, Dad." "I feel weird in civilian clothes." She sat down next to me. We watched the other companies march, the guidons passing, the same military precision I'd spent my entire adult life around. "How's it going?" I asked. "Good, really good actually. Made squad leader last month. Tactical officer says I'm doing well. Clearance review came back clean, no issues." "That's great, Sarah." "Yeah." She paused. "Dad, I need to tell you something." I got asked about the family situation during the clearance review. They asked about the divorce, about Derek, about everything. My stomach tightened. And I told them the truth. That my father discovered misconduct and reported it through proper channels, that he upheld the standards even though it cost him personally. The investigator actually said, she smiled. He said having a father with that kind of integrity was a positive factor, not a negative. I couldn't speak, just sat there looking at my daughter in her gray cadet uniform. You saved my career, Dad, by almost destroying it. Does that make sense? Yeah, I said, it does. We sat in silence for a while, watching the cadets march, watching the next generation train for the same service I'd just left. Do you miss it? Sarah asked. The Army? Did I miss it? The formations, the ceremonies, the weight of command, the satisfaction of leading soldiers, the sense of purpose that came with wearing the uniform. Sometimes, I admitted, but I'm okay without it. I spent 22 years defining myself by my rank, by my position. Maybe it's time I figure out who James Hawkins is without the uniform. You're still my hero, she said quietly. Even more now than before, maybe especially now. I put my arm around her, my daughter, 20 years old, cadet at West Point, third-generation military, carrying on the legacy, but doing it her way, with truth from the start. I'm proud of you, Sarah Bear. I know, Dad. I know. We sat there as the sun set over the Hudson River. The parade ground emptied. The guidons were furled and put away. Another day of training complete, and I thought about everything that had happened. Amanda's betrayal, Derek's cowardice, the investigation, the divorce, the ceremony, all of it. I'd lost my marriage, lost my command, lost the identity I'd built over 2 decades, but I'd kept my integrity. I'd shown my daughter what honor looked like in practice, not just theory. I'd held the standards even when it cost me everything. James and Sarah redefined what family means. Not who you're born to, but who shows up when it matters, who chooses honor, who tells you the truth even when it hurts. If you've built your own chosen family through integrity and truth, tell me about them in the comments. Who's the person who showed up when they didn't have to? And if this story moved you, if you believe honor matters more than comfort, subscribe. I tell stories about people who choose the hard right over the easy wrong. I'll see you in the next one. Sarah stood up, had to get back to her company before evening formation. She squeezed my shoulder. Love you, Dad. Love you too. I watched her walk away. Cadet uniform, perfect posture, every inch a soldier. My daughter, my legacy. She'll do it better than I did. She'll do it with truth from the start. I stayed in the bleachers for a while longer, watching the sunset, watching the academy lights come on across campus. No longer a colonel, no longer a battalion commander, just James Hawkins, veteran, father, man who chose integrity over comfort. I've led men into combat. I've made impossible decisions under fire. I've carried the weight of command through 2 decades of service. But I never thought the hardest battle would be at home. I was wrong about that. The hardest battle was at home. The battle between doing what was easy and doing what was right. Between protecting my comfort and protecting my integrity. Between the man I wanted to be and the man I was afraid of becoming. But I won. Not because I was stronger than the enemy, not because I had better tactics or superior firepower. I won because I fought it with honor. And in the end, that was the only victory that mattered.